10 Sports Central will be over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over one of the more underrated teams in the Big 12 last season, and that's going to be the TCU Horned Frogs. This team was 6-4 overall in the 2020 season, definitely a middle-of-the-pack team in the Big 12. I consider them to be a top-half team in the conference last season, and going into 2021, I'd say this team is definitely slept on going into next season, and why that is what we're going over here today. We're going to go ahead and get started with TCU's final prediction, and we'll be starting out with your season trends from 2020 here today, kind of looking back at how this team was in the 2020 season, which overall, this team actually played pretty well over the course of 2020. They beat Texas there 33-31, beat Texas Tech 34-18. They also beat Oklahoma State 29-22, and that was before beating Louisiana Tech there towards the end of the season. 52-10 was the score there. So overall, actually, not that bad of a season for TCU. Once again, I do think this team was pretty underrated last season, and overall, this is definitely a team that I think has got a tremendous amount of talent going into next season, especially considering, TCU last year was pretty inexperienced, and I think for them to go 6-4 last year was actually pretty impressive. Looking at your returning production going into next season, speaking of which, of course, you got Max Duggan coming back, which, if you look at Max Duggan at the start of his career, he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks in the nation in the FBS, just straight up, just because of how inaccurate he was and his interception rate and his turnover rate and everything. He actually improved a ton over the course of 2019 to 2020. In 2020, he put up 1,700 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So he fixed up that touchdown and interception ratio. He also put up a good completion rate there, 61%, which is a raise of 8% from 2019 to 2020. If you want a reminder of how bad he was in 2019, 53% was his completion rate in 2019, which, that is one of the worst completion rates I've ever seen out of a starting quarterback. So for Max Duggan to improve like that definitely shows the amount of upside that he has going into next season, but also how he can improve, and he's definitely on the rise right now. As for the running back core, you got Darwin Barlow, of course, transferring to USC. He was their top running back last season. It looked like he was going to return, but he is actually transferring out now. I put up just over 470 yards last season. Zach Evans, though, good thing is you are returning him. He put up a decent amount of yards as well, just over 450 yards on the 2020 season. So I'm not too concerned about this running back core. Zach Evans especially is going to have a big workload next season, but for Darwin Barlow, it's a good thing for him because he's probably going to get more playing time at USC than at TCU next season. As for the receiving core, of course, you got Quentin Johnson. He's going to be coming back. You also got Zaire Barber, Darius Davis. All three of your top receivers are coming back for next season. So that's going to be huge for Max Duggan next year, having the majority of his receivers back there. If you look at Quentin Johnston, him especially is going to be a big impact player for this team. Put up 490 yards last year, 4 touchdowns as well. Darius Davis, of course, your third wideout, put up 270 yards. Then Zaire Barber put up just over 350 last season. So overall, offensively, this team looks really good in the skill players positions. Once again, with Max Duggan, you got a good running back core there, led by Zach Evans, and then you got once again all three of your receivers coming back. This team is looking very good as far as it goes on the returning production side of things. Defensively, you're only losing 3 in the secondary. That is it. So overall for TCU, looks really good defensively. The offense looks great as well. Those are the 2 key ways to have a great season. So I definitely think TCU is definitely slept on going into next season. You don't hear many people talking about TCU being a potential contender for next season, but if you ask me how TCU is going to be, it's going to highly depend on how Max Duggan is. If Max Duggan plays well, if he improves next season, puts up maybe a 65 to 67% completion rate, we could easily see TCU potentially as a top team in the Big 12, which the Big 12 is a somewhat competitive conference this year, especially with Oklahoma and Iowa State at the top, but you also got, of course, Texas and Oklahoma State, who could also be good. So TCU does have a few tough opponents for sure next season in their conference, and it's going to be mighty competitive at the top, but TCU I definitely think has got plenty of talent to be able to put up a great season. Potential dark horse though in 2021, I'd say this team has potential to do that, but this team does have a pretty tough schedule. We'll get to their schedule in just a second, but TCU does have quite a workload next season if they want to be a top team in the conference. Potential Big 12 contender, once again, highly going to depend on Max Duggan. Even if he can improve his completion rate to at least like 64%, that could be huge for the Horned Frogs and this team in general. I mean, if once again Max Duggan improves, that's going to be huge for this team moving forward. Looking at your schedule now, you got, of course, Duquesne to start your season. You got California then after that. California could be an interesting matchup there. That's going to be at home. SMU, you also got them. So, I mean, looking at your non-conference games there, I mean, California and SMU both won't be easy opponents. So you do have a somewhat tough schedule there. Duquesne is going to be an easy win for sure. But, I mean, California and SMU, of course, I mean, especially Cali. Cali next season could be a good team. I actually kind of like them quite a bit going into next season. So, don't expect that to be an easy win by any means. But looking at your first 3 games here with Duquesne, that's going to be an easy win. California is going to be close. I'm going to give it to TCU, though. I think TCU does pull that one out in the end. They'll also get the win against SMU. SMU is also a potential close game, but I'm gonna put it as an easy game for now. So you're going to start the season 3-0, of course. Going into your October, you got 5 games, 5 straight weeks. That's going to be a grind of a month there. You got Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma on the road in Norman. Then you got West Virginia and Kansas State. Here's what I expect out of this month. I think Texas will be a win. It's going to be very close, though. That's going to be one of your, I'd say, signature wins of the season for sure. Texas next year, of course, is looking to be a pretty good team, especially if that quarterback situation shapes out to be a beneficial position for that team. I mean, it could be a close one for sure, but I think TCU does get the win in the end. Texas Tech, I went back and forth on that one so many times, but Texas Tech next season, I do think will be a sneaky team in the Big 12 for sure. I do think they upset a couple of teams, and TCU is going to be one of them. I just think coming off of that Texas win, I mean, you're going to be 4-0 and riding high, but I think Texas Tech does get the win there and brings TCU back down low. I also like Texas Tech just because of Tyler Shuck. I think he's definitely a quarterback to watch out for next season, and I think Texas Tech in general is a potential sleeper team for next year as well. But it's going to be close, very close, but with it being on the road, I think that game kind of sneaks up on TCU, and we'll see Texas Tech get the win. Oklahoma, that's going to be a brutal game there in Norman, and of course, I mean, coming off of that loss against Texas Tech, you might have some motivation there, but I think Oklahoma's too good of a team. You take a loss there. West Virginia, that was also a tough one to predict. Mountaineers next season are also going to be an excellent team. I mean, you got a great quarterback in West Virginia, and that team in general is returning a ton of production. Once again, the Big 12 is going to be a very competitive conference next season. Probably, I'd say the Big 12 has potential to be the second or even third best conference in college football next year. I mean, if you look at, you got Oklahoma once again. You got Iowa State, Texas, even West Virginia, Kansas State, you could argue will be at the top of the conference, Oklahoma State, TCU. So you got at least 6 or 7 teams that are definitely going to be towards the top of the conference next season, or at least have talent to be one of the best teams in the conference. But I think West Virginia is going to be a tough one there. I do give the Mountaineers the win. Kansas State is also a close one, but I'll give TCU the win there. This is going to be kind of the common theme of a lot of your games, is you're going to have a ton of close ones for sure. A lot of those games will definitely flip either way, or could flip either way for sure. So you'll be 5-3 heading into your November. That's what I'm predicting right now, which, I mean, if you got 5 wins heading into your November after a brutal October, that would not be a terrible situation. As for the Baylor game, I'm going to give you an easy win there. I don't really think Baylor is going to be a good team at all next season. They've just got a mess down there in Waco. Oklahoma State on the road, that's going to be a close one, but I'm going to give it to the Cowboys there. Oklahoma State next season is also a team that could potentially see being a good team for sure. Kansas will be close. Iowa State, then, of course, you got them on the road, in which that's going to be a crucial game for Iowa State there. I mean, they're definitely going to be, I'd say, top 2, top 3 in the conference for sure. Currently, right now, I think it's going to be either Iowa State or Oklahoma who wins the conference. I could easily see it being either Oklahoma or Iowa State. And for Iowa State, that's going to be a crucial game. They're going to come into that game ready to go for sure. And the Cyclones will get the win over TCU in that matchup to finish out the regular season. So 7-5 is going to be your record prediction for next season. That would not be a terrible record at all. I mean, 7-5 doesn't look, it doesn't look great at first, but I mean, for TCU, a team that's still rebuilding and back on the rise, 7-5 would not be a terrible record at all for TCU next season in a very competitive Big 12 conference next season. So that being said, I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments below on TCU. I appreciate you guys all watching. Let me know your record predictions and all of that down in the comments. If you enjoyed the preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well, as it does help with the channel. But once again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.